Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that is to discuss the emotional pain or suffering when you are in a relationship with a narcissist and what it really means to be supply and why is this so painful. I guess to sort of explore the hurt feelings. Will namely realize that a narcissist or a psychopath, they have a pathological a sense of self-importance coupled with a lack of empathy. So namely, this means these individuals are very invalidating, meaning they're not going to give you support, feedback, reinforcement, a listening ear, a listening heart, a listening chair. There's not going to be a listening couch. There's not going to be really, because of a lack of empathy, there is not going to be really a validation of your feelings, needs, wishes, and particularly your emotions and where you're coming from. So if they are unwilling and unable. So not only are they unable, but they're unwilling because they don't feel that it's their responsibility to listen, take in, or consider another people's needs, feelings, wishes, or emotions. So it is of disinterest to them. It is of low value. It is for invalidation or devaluing another, especially when a viewer says so painfully, that this individual was mocking their accomplishments. So in other words, there's something that you are good at. I mean, it is something that is a known fact. So a narcissist is part of, the invalidation. They won't say, oh my gosh, that was great. And then, give you eye contact or ask you questions that gives you credit where credit is due. They are very resistive. They will not be giving. This is part of their operating moderandi. They do not like to give. They like all for themselves. They do not like to share. They do not like to have equality. They want to have inequality, especially when it comes to how they feel that they stack up. So they really have a sense of entitlement and arrogance and tend to have a lot of contempt for others because of this grandiosity. So if you've been the subject or target of contempt and projection, scapegoating, this is gaslighting and brainwashing. So it's a way for them to invalidate who you are. So people, this is why they have such a difficult time with confidence, being confident, having autonomy, having independence, having financial independence, emotional independence, professional independence, or autonomy. This is one of the first, developmental stages that a human being goes through. And so oftentimes, if you don't have a strong sense of self, either, before you met this person or this person might be surrounding you for a long period of time, then you will not be able to grow, self-actualize, communicate, be able to be happiness, feel fulfilled, joy, that whole spectrum of emotions. You're basically saying, no, thank you. I don't wish to experience the good stuff. When you're hanging around a narcissist, you're going to be limiting your repertoire to really the negative end of the spectrum, meaning, shame, fear, intimidation, bullying, aggression, rage, criticism, belittling, and devaluing. This is what they do. This is how they are able to keep their it's a release of tension. So if you've been under attack, sort of under, the criticism of a narcissist, and you're wondering why you don't feel in control or autonomous or strong enough to move on, because usually this is the experiential state, the resourcefulness state, that while you're in the midst of a relationship with a narcissist, they will distract you from that ability. In other words, they're taking that from you to give to them. So this is problematic. In other words, they're not able to validate good job, good grade, good da 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 da. You're not going to receive the positive feedback, but yet you have to wonder then, that's kind of like a wow, and then why do people continue to stay? Oftentimes because one of our viewers so aptly stated, part of the addiction is not pleasure, it is loss of control and guilt. So you're basically giving up authority over self or responsibility over self onto this individual when they're in the sort of supply or take projection mode gaslighting. So part of the difficulty then for those people who have undergone this is, this invalidation is they don't have any sense of positive validation or I am, meaning that they have a basis of positive truth, something that is sustainable and is important to them existentially, who they are, who they're able to relate to, and especially the emotional injury that occurs as a result of this is usually at the hands of projection and invalidation. So negating you, negating your strength, negating communication, withholding guidance, withholding. This is, the narcissist is very secretive. So that's why, then there's the surprise element. Usually that comes part of the surprise or part of the invalidation, and then they're further invalidating that you are not clued in, you are not included. These people can be very exclusive and oftentimes try to make it part of their manipulation tool to be exclusive. I need to talk to the vice president. Put me through to this. I don't want to be bothered with you. You're an underling. So they have made a judgment call before they've even given you a chance. This happens in all systems. And this is very uncomfortable for people, but oftentimes people end up siding with the abuser saying, you know what, you must be right. I am miserable. I am a horrible person. I am this. So then people, in order to appease or pacify the abuser, they come into erroneous thinking or agreeing with the abuser. This is where things get very difficult for people to sort of think their way through or work things because they cannot sift it out. They do not, the force, I would say, is so great. The overwhelm, this is manipulation. People manipulate to get their way, to get something. So if people, are falling prey to the manipulation, then and they know better, then they have willingly conceded to being manipulated, and they're giving themselves the short end of the stick. But oftentimes people do not want to compromise. They don't want to be treated unfairly. They don't want to be treated unjustly. This is not fair. And if this is how you're being treated, then you have no business contributing positivity or giving your positive love, affection, your attention, your eye contact, your pat on the back, your dinner, your bank account, whatever it is that this person is trying to project, usually is oftentimes very precisely related to their own core insecurity. So if they have an insecurity that they have not worked through, you're going to find that you're the target of this, and all of a sudden you are this. So they create a mold for you to be in before you even stepped in the room, before you even stepped in the door. They've already got you shaped. So you don't have any recourse to a communication, to a fairness or open, honest communication, because they're always trying to paint you other than something as what you are. So it's like the viewer comment, I think, was based on a Richard Gannon comment, and it was, let me go back to this. It's kind of like, I hit you and I hurt. Let me see where this is. I don't want to pause for too long. But in other words, Let me just go back to that real quick. If you guys want to take a quick breather or relax for a moment, let me see if I can find the comment. In other words, shoot, I'm sorry, but we will find it later. It's basically how the narcissist will try to get you to be responsible for their feelings, which couldn't be further from the truth. You're not responsible for anyone's feelings. They are responsible, just like you're responsible for your own feelings. And they try to get you to be disempowered and to be hurt so that you can't be empowered. And here it is, the covert narcissist abuses you, and every time they punch you, they themselves say, ouch. Every time they punch you, they say, ouch. So this is very akin to sort of the example, where it's like they throw you on the floor and call you dumb and say, look, you're on the floor, you're so dumb. In other words, they put you into a place and they go, you're off, and do you see what I'm saying? They will use the belittling as a way to manipulate. This is a way, a method of control. It's a very low level way of trying to control others. And of course, is you're being controlled a bad thing? Yes, it is, because that means you don't have the ability to eat, sleep, breathe, make decisions, or navigate your life. That means you're giving up your life for another. And for some reason, people had sort of done this. I would think out of the name of love, they sacrificed their happiness because they were caught up in this pattern of needing to pacify an abuser, keeping them happy, putting yourself second fiddle, 100th fiddle. You're now the 100,000th fiddle, and you can't you can't separate your feelings from theirs, or you just have so much overwhelming negativity. This is usually because people are like a sponge. They're usually taking in, those people with empathy, they're usually taking in another's feelings, needs, wishes, and thoughts and trying to be interactive, supportive, basically back and forth, listening, etc. I mean, this is called a functional This is called a functional conversation. You're not going to get this. You've got a problem with a narcissist, namely, I would say that keeps you feeling invalidated is because the narcissist is the one, they need constant ego stroking. They need admiration. They need attention. They need to be the one, the only one. That this is it. They're, even though there should be more than one or more than two or whatever, they need to prevail. They need to feel that they are coming out on top. And oftentimes throwing you under the bus is what it means. So they can say, look, I threw you under the bus. You're stupid. You're this, and you are unacceptable. And then people end up believing this. They end up believing their worth of self based on the negative criticism that is really just a way for a narcissist to say, get out of my way. It's all about me. Thank you very much. The narcissist, you really feel that they have not really met you. The narcissist is like, well, pleased to meet me. They're not interested in other people unless you can support whatever it is that they want. So their relationships can be very selective, otherwise known as exclusivity. The narcissist feels that they only need to surround themselves with situations that will get them to where they want to go. So these are the people who, can't have a fair exchange. They always have something to prove. And usually it means you're not an insider, and then usually there's a sob story where they will invalidate you because of their sob story. And it is very, very unfair, unbalanced, and not to be tolerated. I would say this creates part of the most difficult suffering or emotional suffering and woundedness at the hands of narcissistic abuse or psychopathic abuse, other than that of withholding what you need, oftentimes which they will withhold what they need. No, you're not going to have another glass of milk. No, you're not going to have another smile. No, you're not going to have, you're not going to have. They like to remain in control so that you're always having to refer or default to them as the authority. In other words, you're resigning yourself. I don't have any authority over self, and then you're complying with them as your authority. But oftentimes they're a negative source of authority for you. They will send your life in the wrong direction. They will cause hurt, woundedness, a lack of productivity, regression, feeling of isolation, post-traumatic stress syndrome, doubting yourself, and namely lack of confidence. How are you supposed to get anywhere if you do not have confidence? If you don't have trust, if you don't have self-trust, if you don't have respect, and you are being invalidated. In other words, this creates sort of a alter reality for a lot of people. And it's oftentimes steeped with fear. So that fear is the absence of love. So a lot of people ask, how do I also get more relationships, or how now that I've, because of trauma, because of abuse, I am at a loss for relationships, or a loss in relationships. Oftentimes because you don't have confidence. You don't have a sense of self. You don't have an I am. Just a very, very simple 2 words in what that means to live within you, for it to be within you and nobody else. So in other words, this is your gold, your internal I am. This is who you are, despite not needing to comply with the judgment of others. Oftentimes the judgment is systematically designed to keep you down so that you cannot rise up. You can never find out. You can never be included. Do you see how they use this as a manipulation to elevate their sense of self? So it's a very superficial, and oftentimes requires a lot of energy and becomes very obvious in the narcissist. And so you cannot take responsibility for their abuses. This is really what makes people neurotic, problematic. They think that they are responsible for another's feelings. In other words, you did not provoke them. You did not set them off. You are. I mean, if they do not like you, if they do not, but they need you for some reason. In other words, they're not willing to give, but they're willing to receive. Who can do more of, the back scratching, making the meals, paying the bills, doing the work, doing this, do you see what I'm saying? Who really gets, this, and why are you lacking confidence? It's oftentimes because of the invalidation of the fact that you do and are a wonderful person, and you are important, and your feelings and experiences matter. Period. End of story. The narcissist will try to slight you, though. They will treat you with contempt. They will minimize and marginalize you. They will not give you credit where credit is due. They don't want you to experience this. Because this is a challenge to them. Your strength is a challenge to them. Oftentimes they perceive that as a threat, so you'll continue to get the emotional punching of projection. And a little bit more about the projection and invalidation. Usually I always liken it to like a funny house mirror, where all of a sudden you walk in front of it and you're either very fat or very tall or wavy. So that is what invalidation is like. They're looking back at you and saying, look, you're so mean, or you're so this, or you're so, in other words, they're doing this. They're pointing the finger at you, but they've got 4 fingers pointing back at them. So it's usually because they cannot take responsibility for their own insecurity, and how that then causes them to lash out and criticize and judge others. That is the core source, is their insecurity. And so what it makes them do will vary per person, but generally it is a very precise equivalent to the issues that is their problem, that they're just trying to pick up and transplant into you. And it's usually a very exact parallel. the falsehoods that they are accusing you of are the ones that they are guilty of, period, end of story. The ones that they harbor, the ones that they are trying to overcome. They will make you the fall guy, because isn't that so much easier? And there is oftentimes this very sadistic, or when you get into the malignant narcissist and the psychopathic, where they literally have pleasure to see others in pain. This is not a healthy dynamic. So you really need to opt out and say, no, thank you. I decline. And even if this means you being on your own and having what I call those valley moments. So when you feel like all you can do is sort of look into healing, then you really need to understand that the healing journey is really where you are at right now. And to understand the projection, and then to stop absorbing other people's negativity. Stop making things all your fault. Stop taking the blame game and sort of taking it in like a thirsty sponge, and then squeezing out, and then you're feeling just sort of overwhelmed and hurt feelings. This is oftentimes because you've taken on too much negativity of another. The problem with a narcissist is they do not seek to be responsible for certain things. They are above it. They're above the law. They're above the rules. This doesn't apply to me. I am entitled. That is entitlement. And so they think, they're always about the win. There is something that they should possess and no one else. So the narcissist also has a pathological need to sort of be sort of coddled or made the center of attention in this way. Even as they become adults, they will be this way and will always be this way. They will not change. So the projection and the invalidation oftentimes go hand in hand. So not only are they not reinforcing your positivity and your good qualities, but they're accentuating any sort of negative or creating a new negative for you. The projection, in other words, blaming you for something that they, that you have not done, but yet they will do it with such force and vigor and conviction that it frightens people, so they're not able to stand up for themselves. And they manipulate through fear and intimidation. This is just very low-level manipulation. Someone who is pining for a sense of significance will result to this. Just like when someone has a weapon, all of a sudden they're the very, most powerful person in the room. So these people are very hyper-vigilant, and they're looking for opportunity to gaslight you and reflect back to you that you are this and this, so that they will really sort of create a dissociation. So people will end up taking on these false accusations and feeling that they are horrible people when indeed they are not. That they are not worthy of a romantic relationship just because the other person cannot commit, or is unfair, or is cheated and cannot keep with one person. All of a sudden, people think it's their fault. So this couldn't be further from the truth. So understand that these are tactics. Do not fall prey to the manipulation. Begin to develop a sharp eye for what this is. And identify it. And that way you'll be able to sift through and sort it out, especially when other people are also turning a blind eye. So you also will get this sort of smear campaign in the invalidation. Well, they'll try to take on what is known in the literature as flying monkeys, or their other supply, to do their dirty work for them so they don't have to work. If they have all these other people who are trying to cut you down or not give you credit at work, and they get a whole department against you. I mean, this is just what they do. This is invigorating for them. This is business as usual, whether it's you or somebody else. Just don't allow it to be you to be abused. Allow them to move on and pick on somebody else. You will not be at a loss. You will be all the better and all the wiser. And then realize that the what the projection is. Oftentimes it's an insidious criticism that is very sort of almost like a life sentence. A narcissist will sort of, through controlling through fear, obligation, and guilt. But that, will try to control you. So you can imagine that's called the fog. So they're trying to keep you under like a lid or a cap. And then pretty soon you can't see anything. You can't hear anything. You're sort of losing touch with things. People sometimes feel that they're losing touch with their reality, their I am, their direction, their vision moving forward. So things become very emotionally painful. And so they try to then correct things and then appease the abuser. This is not healthy. This is not required. You do not owe an abuser anything. You do not, but people oftentimes, I think, after they've been abused, they feel that they owe the abuser something. They owe them this, that, the other thing. I mean, why are you over obligating yourself and depleting yourself for another? This is counterintuitive, but oftentimes people feel in the wrong by saying no. So you might feel in the wrong by protecting yourself. You might feel in the wrong by drawing a boundary. You might, feel guilty by having a standard, but these are yours. Don't allow these to be ripped away from you by the hands of an abuser who is seeking to demoralize and really diminish you. This is just what they do. They sort of, shrink you very, very small so that you're sort of not even, they try to keep you sort of invisible in plain sight. And that is not healthy. You need validation. You need eye contact. You need, good job. You need to run this by somebody. You need to be able to check things out with people and not fearful or, that you're going to, elicit that narcissist rage. That's just part of their invalidation. Is if they can rage on you, then you don't have anything. And so that's oftentimes part of their goal. So don't be complicit with that sort of aggression or that sort of relationship. Surround yourself with others who do have empathy, who can respect you, who are not threatened by you, who are okay with give and take, who are okay with the truth, who are okay with not living a false reality, who are okay not trying to show other people up or off, who aren't always trying to get a leg up over others, etc. Whatever it is, you do not, that is not where life is at. It is okay to say, where it's at is with me, and that is okay. Have a beautiful day.